Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Coming up this week, Disney begins shutting down websites that are selling dining reservations. Orlando airports are seeing an increase in passengers. And this week, we announce a new audio-only show coming to the Diz Unplugged family, as well as our coverage of this year's Food and Wine Festival, all coming up next. From the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida, this is the Diz Unplugged. This is the Diz Unplugged, episode 854 for the week of September 29th, 2015. The Diz Unplugged is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show, coming to you live from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends, Steve Jr. Porter.
Hello.
From the Disneyland edition of the Diz Unplugged, our resident Disney historian, Michael Bowling.
Hey there, hi there, ho there.
Of course, the lovely and talented Jenny Lynn Knopp.
Hey, guys.
Corey.
I'm just happy to be here.
Back in the production nook, our newly minted associate producer, Rhino Clavin, along with our newly minted producer, Mr. Craig Williams.
Hi, everyone.
Minty fresh.
Great to be here, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And a couple things in housekeeping. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who has said such nice things about how I look after my some weight loss that you all apparently noticed, which I imagine I didn't think you wouldn't notice it. But I do want to address those of you who have reached out to me privately, asking me if I have cancer or if something else is going on. I can promise you, to the best of my knowledge, I'm not sick. This has kind of been I don't know if I want to use this term, but a perfect storm. Back in May, I hadn't been managing my diabetes. I'm a type 2 diabetic, and I hadn't really been managing it at all. And back in May, I got serious about it and didn't go on a diet per se, but I said I've got to eat for my diagnosis here and really watch my numbers. And I got my A1C, which is the number on your blood test that tells you what your average blood sugar over the last 3 months was. For those who are familiar with the A1C, you'll be horrified that my number was an 11.2, which is extraordinarily high, very dangerous. And back in August, I had another one done after managing it and watching it, and got it down to a 6.3, I think it was. So my doctor was really happy about that, and he said, but I need, your good cholesterol is low. I need you to start exercising. And I told him that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. But in the last month, I have kind of gone back to something I used to do a lot when I was younger, and which is walking. I love to walk, and it's great for me to clear my head. It's great for me to kind of just process things and, listen to music or whatever. And because I live in a swamp right now, which is wet and humid and disgusting, I can't really walk outside. I won't. But I'm fortunate enough to have a family room that is 800 square feet. It is 40 feet long by 20 feet wide. And it turns out it is a great place to do laps. And so, yeah, anybody looking in from the outside would think I was insane because I'm walking around my living room in a circle.
While you watch TV.
But you know what? Here you go. Here you go. It is a little more rapid than I wanted. And, so I am going to see my doctor next week just to check in and let him see. But I am fine, and I appreciate your concern. And, I'm going to take it, man. I got in the 34s for the first time in 15 years. So I'm really happy. I went clothes shopping. Well, I was clothes shopping last Thursday, got some new clothes. And I got into 34s. I'm like, okay, it's hell has officially frozen over. Because I just threw out a bunch of clothes that I'm like, I'm never getting into these again. And lo and behold, isn't that the way of it? So thank you for that. I appreciate it, but I'm okie dokie. I also want to let everyone know that with Dustin's departure, we have decided not to continue doing segments at least for the rest of the year. We may revisit that in January. Instead, when we have something to cover that would normally go into a segment, we're going to be just adding it onto the news show. So we'll be doing elongated news shows from time to time when it warrants. For example, that's what we're doing this week with our coverage of the Food and Wine Festival. So what we may do is just maybe lob off the Food and Wine portion for the audio feed so that people can either have the full version or just the Food and Wine, if that's what they want, stuff like that. But just until we decide which direction we want to go, that's what we're going to be doing. So I wanted to let everyone know that. And my script did not update because Tom sent me the Disneyland synopsis. So the Disneyland edition of the Diz Unplugged goes live every Sunday night, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, Mixlr.com, Mixlr.com. Those shows go up Monday and Tuesday on iTunes or on DizUnplugged.com. And this week...
On this week's Disneyland edition, listeners Tyler and Brittany return with a trip report from their Disneyland vacation, and Nancy Johnson talks about checking out a performance at the Hollywood Bowl.
Yes, I gave a very good concert. There. All right. So that's the Disneyland edition. Of course, every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, live, DizUnplugged.com. The ladies of the Diz, Jenny Lynn Knopp and Teresa Eccles, have their show, The Trip. And this is a pre-recorded show this week?
This is a pre-recorded show.
So if you want to see Dustin again, Dustin is actually on that show.
Yes. We all went to Cafe Tutu Tango on International Drive, so we're doing a dining review.
I love that place.
Yeah,
I know,
Tutu
that's
Tango's
why
great.
Teresa was like, we got to go to Cafe Tutu Tango. Corey loves that place. So,
You didn't say.
I hear Corey loves that place.
We should go.
so, yep, that will be this week's episode.
That's 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday, DizUnplugged.com. And on Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, DizUnplugged.com, the Universal Edition of the Diz Unplugged, starring our very own producer, Craig Williams, along with Jenny Lynn Knopp, associate producer, Rhino Clavin. And what are you doing this week, Craig?
I think we might go to Cafe Tutu Tango because I hear so many good things about it from Corey. No, this week we're going to talk a little bit about the classic monsters and where you can find them this Halloween season.
Oh, cool.
Ooh.
Cool.
Good idea.
Spooky.
That's a nice take on a topic. Good. I know nothing about honestly,
Yeah.
I do not exercise any editorial control over these shows. I let these guys do what they want. And, works out pretty well. Everybody's numbers are good. So as long as the numbers are good, I don't care. And as long as I'm not getting hate mail because, they're like burning crosses on the lawn or something. So that's the Universal Edition of the Diz Unplugged, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. And while we are talking about the shows in the Diz Unplugged family of the Cavalcade of Stars, I am really, really happy to announce that we are launching a new audio-only show that will be going up. We'll explain the release to you in a little bit. But I wanted to do something special and different for our listeners. We certainly put a lot of effort here into the video version of our show, and we know that people enjoy listening to that. The vast majority of our audience is audio only. They don't watch; they listen. Even though we have a nice size audience watching the show. And I wanted to throw some love at the listeners. And this isn't the only idea I have, but this is the first one to come to fruition. And for those of you who have ever listened to the Disneyland version of the Diz Unplugged, you know that Michael Bowling does some amazing, amazing history segments. He is a true Disney historian, knows it like the back of his hand. So we asked Michael to do a special series on the history of Walt Disney World. And that is going to be going up. What's the date? I know it's going up on Fridays.
October 2nd.
October 2nd will be the first one. And we will be doing a month's worth of shows. So you'll have them every Friday for the month of October. Then the next round of them will come up in January. So let's talk to Michael for a little bit. Michael, just give everybody a little bit of your background. You have a very special connection to Walt Disney and the Disney Company, and I think just people should know a little bit more about that.
I do. When I was a boy, I did a bit of acting, and one of the things that I did was, everybody's familiar with the original Mickey Mouse Club in the 50s, and they were first introduced before the television show went on the air. They were introduced at the opening day of Disneyland, and everybody wondered, who are they? And what Walt envisioned for the club was that there'd be a new club for every generation. And the Mickey Mouse Club went off the air after about 3 years, and he had some disputes with ABC, and then he ultimately switched over to NBC. But he couldn't take any of his programs with him, like Zorro and Mickey Mouse Club and a couple of other things he was doing. And so so the club ended, and then when the 10th anniversary, when they started planning for the 10th anniversary of Disneyland, Walt started thinking this might be a good time to look at bringing the club back. So we hired a group of children, and we started, and I was one of them. I was one of the Mouseketeers, and we started to perform and rehearse at the studio, and then we would be brought out to the park. And we would do a special show in an area of Disneyland that is now known for the Magic Eye Theater. Well, now it's called the Tomorrowland Theater, and Space Mountain sit there now, but there was a stage. And we would basically do a mini Mickey Mouse Club there, but our special guest stars were always the original Mouseketeers. So that was very special. And so we were the Disneyland chapter of the Mickey Mouse Club. And what happened over the course of time, the Tencennial ran its course. It did not go for 18 months, as they do these days. It ran the summer and all that. But we had been performing for a while, and then the decision needed to be made what was going to happen with this chapter. And ultimately, the decision was made that it would be more cost-effective to re-syndicate the original show in 30-minute segments, because it had originally been an hour show, and send that out rather than restarting the club. So we took off our ears and left. We were done. But Walt's vision for the club ultimately did happen. There was a new club in the 70s and then another new club in the 80s, so that his concept of a generational club did continue on for a time. So that was my connection with the club.
Which is, I think, is just such a cool story. So the Connecting with Walt series that we're about to launch, talk about what we're going to hear come October with these shows.
Right. Well, the 60 Years of Disneyland series that I've been doing on the Disneyland show have been so popular that I know we were getting a lot of requests for sort of a Walt Disney World version. Mm-hmm. And so Connecting with Walt, the reason we're not saying like 45 years of Disney World or something, is because it's going to be a very broad show. It's not only going to deal with Disney World, but it's going to be the history of anything around Disney. It might be films, might be attractions. Having these event shows where we have a full month would allow us to have a themed month, where maybe we look at all the attractions having a significant anniversary in the coming year, whatever it may be, or maybe a movie month where we look at the history of films that were made that are having anniversaries. But we're going to focus though on Walt Disney World coming up. Craig and I have already recorded. There's 2 episodes in the can, and of course by that I mean they're recorded on the laptop Craig takes with him to the bathroom.
I'm supposed to tell the secrets.
So it really is starting out with we do. Disney World originated from 2 different areas. There's the creative origination, and that's Walt. So we really look at who Walt was, what made him tick, and how did his vision, his personality, his outlook for the future affect Disney World and his concept for the Epcot, the environmental prototype community of tomorrow. We talk about a presentation. Brad Bird, the Pixar director and the director of Tomorrowland, did the film did at the Walt Disney Family Museum recently, and we explore how Walt's vision for the future became society's vision for the future. When you think about when we were young, we had a very positive vision for our future. We knew we were going to have issues, but we believed we were going to overcome them for a positive future. Now we have a very apocalyptic view
that's a good word,
of the future, where we better enjoy our time now because what's coming is going to be worse. How did that change? And what we're going to suggest is it changed when we no longer have Walt Disney's vision of the future to listen to every week on television and to see created for us. So that's our first episode. Our second episode is with the success of Disneyland, Walt got offers from across the country for him to build a Disneyland in towns and states all around the United States. And usually Walt very politely turned them down. But there were a few projects that piqued his interest. And so Craig and I are going to explore several of the projects that almost came to be. And I think you'll find some of them surprising. And some of them had effects on Disneyland and Disney World in the long run.
Al, I am very, very excited about this. We've been talking about it for a while now. And so October 2nd, Friday, October 2nd, the first episode of Connecting with Walt with Michael Bowling will go up. It'll be on the Unplugged iTunes feed, this iTunes feed that you get this show on. And, of course, disunplugged.com. It'll be there. And I really hope we get shirts soon because the logo that Will Perry came up with for the show,
it's really
I
cool.
am just over the moon about. I want it on a shirt in the worst way.
I'm looking forward to the show. It's
And
going to fill such a huge
get,
gap.
I get what I
thank
want.
you.
I want the shirts.
I do too.
I had to find myself at several times like finding questions that I needed to continue asking. Otherwise, I would have just sat there and listened in awe the entire time.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. People are going to love it.
You. And what I would like to suggest is I talked about the creative, the creative foundation for Disney World was Walt Disney, but the physical creation of it, foundation, is Disneyland. So to really, I think, appreciate what we're going to talk about on Connecting with Walt, you have to understand Disneyland and what went into Disneyland. And the thing is that the building of Disneyland is really the story of Walt in many ways. So if you haven't already listened to, I'm going to plug the Disneyland show. If you haven't already listened to the segments, the history segments that I've done on the Disneyland podcast, the Windows to the Magic ones, some of the ones I've done in Walt Disney Family Museum, and the 60 years of Disneyland. I really recommend you go and listen to those because some of what I'm going to talk about is happening concurrently with those episodes that I've discussed, but we're going to be branching off really soon. But if you want to get a good grasp of Disney World, it's critical to understand what was going on in California.
Good point.
And so I think you'll enjoy those segments.
Great. Well, we're thrilled that you're doing this, Michael, and always happy to have you here. So we're glad you could join us.
Yes, it's always nice to come back to the Vatican.
I guess that makes me the Pope.
Well, you have a ring.
I do. I have the big ring on. So, all right. Anything else for housekeeping before we move on? All right. So let's go and talk about the news. As I had said last week when Jackie Waller, the spokesperson for Disney World, said, we are investigating the websites that are selling dining reservations. I had said last week that what that means is that legal is dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So earlier this month, it was reported that Walt Disney World was investigating the restaurant reservation services that have begun popping up online and selling reservations to theme park guests. Several of the services, including Disney Dining Buddy, Disney Dining Scout, and WDW Table Finder, all charge between $1 and $8 to search for open reservation times. The users of these sites must then call and make their own reservations. Another website, Diz Dining Agent, which is not affiliated with us or our site, actually would make the reservations under false names for hard-to-get restaurants at Walt Disney World and then sell those reservations to customers for $15. Disney Dining Buddy had posted on their Facebook page earlier in the week that Disney has asked them to shut down. Here's the message that was posted on their Facebook page. Dear loyal customers, Disney has requested that we discontinue our services as currently provided, and we have honored that request. And there's more there. You can go find it yourself. None of these websites, by the way, as I said, are affiliated with us. And I want to kind of address something with this. I'm going to get myself maybe in a little bit of trouble with some people, but I get why people are upset about this. These reservations are hard to get, and then these companies are scooping them up and charging you for them. And not a business model I would have picked personally, but our entire way of living in this country has been built on entrepreneurs looking for opportunities to fill a need. And either by design or just by lack of imagination, Disney has allowed this need to exist. These reservations are coveted. The number of times I have heard people say, my vacation will be ruined, my children will be scarred for life if they don't get into Cinderella's Royal Table or now be our guest or dinner at Le Cellier or whatever the hot reservation du jour might be. I've heard it over and over and over again. And I get it, but because of that crazed need and because of the current system, Disney has these cropped up. Now, we can argue the ethics of it. I don't think, it's a gray area. Some people are acting like you're paying them to murder your enemies or something. I mean, the reaction to some, it's a little ridiculous. And the bottom line is, in a capitalist society, this is what happens. And I don't, again, it's not a business model I would have gone with. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm so morally superior. It's not. Just wouldn't have been something I would have gone with. But I think demonizing the people who did this, who started, I think is a little bit much, because I've seen a lot of that. I've seen a lot of that on the boards, seen a lot of it on Facebook, especially because we all know the deal. We all know the deal. Oh, how dare you do this? Here's my $15. Can I have that reservation? Okay? It's the same thing when Disney raises ticket prices. I'm not going back. How much are they? So I think everybody needs to dial it down to a 5. It's Disney's responsibility to close these loopholes. Okay? The loopholes exist. Disney is popular. And as we will talk about in the next story, getting more popular. And as long as that continues to be, opportunities will present themselves for entrepreneurs to look for ways to meet a need that Disney isn't. Now, I also said last week, and I'm going to stand by this prediction, that I would say it is 60% likely that in the course of the next 12 months, Disney are going to start doing this.
I agree.
Yeah.
That they are going to start saying, you know what, for an additional $20, you can have these premium reservations. And you know what's going to happen? People are going to pound their chest and pound the desk and yell and, oh my God, and then hand over their money. Yeah. Because that's what we do. And if you're going to pay for it, shut up. Same thing with the ticket price increases. If you're going to pay it, shut up. And if you're not going to pay it, say you're not going to pay it, then stick to it, then shut up. Okay? So, but yeah, it was obvious when Disney uses the phrase, we are investigating, been around long enough to know, legal's dotting the I's. And what this is are cease and desist letters were sent out. And I knew that was going to happen. And, and I have no problem with that. That's, Disney saying, nope, can't do that. Honestly, where the internet is concerned, Disney has been incredibly liberal. when I started the Diz back in 1997, this was the era of Disney Legal going after anyone that even like did anything. There was that epic story of the daycare center somewhere down here that had painted Disney characters on the side of the of their building, and Disney went after them. So I remember like the first 2 or 3 years I had this site, I lived in mortal fear. I lived in mortal fear of that happening. And Disney has been, I think, incredibly liberal in terms of what they've allowed with the web. And I think it took them a few years to figure out where it worked for them and where it was okay for them and where it wasn't. And
you still got to be careful with the 3 circles. I mean, how you use those on your website. But I mean, other than that. Yeah.
Well, even using Walt Disney's image, that's copyrighted. So I know when I first talked to Will about the logo for Connecting with Walt, I mentioned to him, I don't think we can use Walt's image in it, and or even an outline. And even a Walt Disney family, to use his name and image for the museum, Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco, they had to get permission from the Walt Disney Company to do it.
No, that's the way of it. It's the way of it. But so I'm not surprised that this happened. But let's stop demonizing the people that were entrepreneurial in spirit, saw a need, tried to fill it, and, didn't work out. But you know what? I'm sorry. As an entrepreneur myself, I'm not gonna judge that. I'm not gonna, like I said, it wouldn't have been my choice. But that's not from a moral place. That's just from a business standpoint. I wouldn't have done it. But I think the demonization of these people probably should stop. But that's my opinion. So, all right. Orlando airports are seeing an increase in passengers. The Orlando area airports are experiencing an increase in arriving passengers compared to the same period last year. Direct nonstop flights coming into Orlando International and nearby Orlando Sanford are on track to see an 11% increase in seat capacity from the fourth quarter of 2014. Overall this year, it's been up about 9%, with passengers from Brazil up 101%, seats from the United Kingdom up 19%, and Canada up 7%. And Visit Orlando, the area's marketing division, says the total seat capacity is up 10%, and the year has shown consistent growth of 9% throughout the year, and they're expecting it to go up to 11% in the fourth quarter. I mean, this is great news for, those of us in the travel industry here. I'm a co-owner in Dreams Unlimited Travel, and, I certainly love it when I hear the numbers going up, because that means the interest is increasing with the kind of development that's going on here, especially the competition happening between Universal and Disney. It is just driving more and more people into Orlando. Of course, the economy's getting better, so that's certainly helping. And again, with this increase in number of people, more people want to be here. And that's why services like Diz Dining Buddy and the rest of them can exist, because it's popular. It's popular, and this is why Disney will continue to raise ticket prices, because people are coming and people are paying it.
I want to give people a note on this too, because when I went to the New England meet, 2 weekends ago, I got to the airport like an hour and 45 minutes before my flight, and I thought, plenty of time, it's fine. And it took me almost an hour to make it to the TSA agent just to sign with my ID, my plane ticket, and then it took 45 minutes for me to get through to get to the security line. And then at Orlando, you have to get on monorail.
That's unusual, though.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the last couple of times I've gone, I've noticed it seems to be a little busier. So on top of it being busier, I also think the Orlando International Airport is going through some staffing issues, is because that's what I heard everybody saying. So I'm just going to say to anybody who's here and they're going back home, make sure you give yourself that extra amount of time, because I almost missed my flight, even though I was there almost the 2 hours ahead of time. So that shouldn't happen. I got to the gate right when they called my seat. So if it had been 15 more minutes, I probably would have missed my flight.
Wow.
We gave Sanford Airport a shot a few months ago because of, we're in the Lake Mary area, so it's really close. but that also meant that we had to give Allegiant Air a shot too, and we're never going back to Sanford. But it's a beautiful airport. It's very small, and you go through security checks with no wait. I just wish they would bring Southwest or something there.
Well,
something better.
I know that Sanford is a popular airport for people coming in internationally. I know a lot of Brits, a lot of tour companies that are operating out of Great Britain are flying people into Sanford. But it's about 45 minutes outside of town, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So that's why I've never even briefly thought about. I live so close to Orlando International that it's like, I mean, literally my house is over like one of the approach paths. So every so often they'll be like, oh, is it coming into my living room? Or, but it's weird because when my furniture was positioned differently, I have a huge skylight in the middle of my family room. I could sit on the couch and see planes going overhead. It was kind of weird.
Well, what Carol and I signed up for was that TSA pre-check, where it's like $80, $85, and it lasts several years. And you go, they investigate you and all that. But it's fantastic. It has saved me so many times because I've run into what Ryan is talking about. I think I've gotten to the airport plenty of time, and then the line is almost as long as if I walked to the destination. But TSA pre-check, I just walk right through.
Right.
So people who travel a lot might want to look into that program.
I think with increasing numbers coming in, more people coming in, I wonder if we're going to see more stuff like the hub expansion in other parks, or so guest occupancy is, I mean, not just like adding attractions, but adding like additional space in places, just because
Avoiding the bottlenecks.
Like spots where like at Peter Pan and It's a Small World, there needs to be like some sort of alternative route there. I mean, the more and more people I was looking, these are old numbers, so this is before even this report, but from 2009 till 2014, the Magic Kingdom saw 2 million more people. So if that trend increases, and these numbers clearly show that it's increasing even more than that trend, they got to do something. I mean, it's getting crazy.
Yeah, and capacity is becoming an issue. I mean, just in general in the parks and the hotels, Disney still has a lot of undeveloped land. Let's keep that in mind too. And I'm telling you, you're going to see Universal in the next year announce a third gate, and then Disney's going to have to respond. And I think we're going to see a fifth gate at Disney at some point, announced at some point in the next 2 to 4 years. I don't think that if that trend continues, they've got to have a place for these people to go. They're not going to turn away the money. They're not. And they shouldn't. And Disney, this is one area where Disney has a major competitive advantage over Universal. They have a lot more land that they currently own that can be developed. Right now, in order to open up a third gate, Universal's going to have to buy back all that land on iDrive that they sold years ago. And at this point, they're going to have to pay 10 times what they sold it for to get it back. But they got a corporate parent with deep pockets, so who knows?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just wondering, is there anything on that land once they sold it? Did it get
developed? Sure, it's been developed. Okay. Absolutely.
And that's the problem. There's a ton of hotels that went up specifically right around the Wet and Wild area, and that's what's going to cause the most issues, because those hotels, I mean, they fill up. Especially during busier times of year, they fill up quickly, so they can really drive that price up because they can prove that they have occupancy there.
Sure.
So it'll be tough for them, but yeah.
All right, that is going to do it. That's going to do it for the news. We're going to move on to rapid fire, and I will start with Junior.
All right, let me open mine up. Disney announced that they're opening, officially announced to add vacation club units to the Wilderness Lodge, like additional units. There was a rumor in May. The company filed permits with the South Florida Water Management District to show construction plans for the resort. The press release currently calls for the resort to feature deluxe waterfront cabins. So I don't know if that's
It's going to be I think it's going to be
Very
somewhat
Bora
similar
Bora
to what they did at Polynesian.
so. Yeah.
And that was something that was originally planned for the Grand Floridian.
Oh, wow.
And so now they're just building them over at Wilderness Lodge. They were going to be honeymoon cottages at the Grand Floridian.
So yeah, it's scheduled to undergo this substantial enhancement. It includes new recreation and food and beverage options. So I wonder if they're gonna put in new restaurants or if they're gonna take down some of the stuff that's there and make new stuff. I don't know, but it's pretty exciting.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with River Country then, because it's supposed to go in right near there.
I was gonna say I went
And-
parasailing a couple weeks ago, and the guy who was driving the boat for the parasailing on Bay Lake hinted that River Country was going to be involved in that development of the DVC units.
That'd be huge.
But obviously, that's not official. That was just the cast member telling me what he had heard. So.
All right. Michael.
Yeah, well, since I'm the Disneyland ambassador, and I was disappointed my plaid vest and my riding crop wasn't laid out here.
You didn't kiss the ring yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really.
But something's happening at Disneyland that is going to happen here in Florida. So we're giving you all a sneak peek here. Disneyland has officially announced that the Star Wars experience at Disneyland in Southern California and Disneyland Hollywood Studios in Florida is going to be opening at Disneyland on November 16th. It's the season of the Force. Guests are going to meet some of their favorite Star Wars characters and enjoy new rides inspired by films. And this is a little misleading, I think. They said on opening day, 5 attractions are set to be open, including the Star Wars launch. And I think they're being really fast and loose with the term attractions here. But
Air quotes.
It's going to be special exhibits and sneak peeks into the upcoming Star Wars The Force Awakens. Hyperspace Mountain is going to be a new overlay for our Space Mountain. It's going to provide guests the opportunity to join an X-Wing starfighter battle. And so that's going to be interesting to see how they redress Space Mountain for that. In December, so I guess that was attraction 1. In December...
I'm sorry, and this is going to be happening, this is happening at
Disneyland.
And eventually coming to
They
Disney
said it will not happen at Disney World because your Star Wars land is going to be over at
see.
Hollywood Studios. But ours is in Disneyland
Yeah.
Park, although
Right.
it's on the other side of the park.
Right.
So, Hyperspace Mountain, well, I'm sorry, I talked about that. In December, Jedi Training Trials of the Temple will show new twists on Jedi training and will also introduce new characters from the Disney XD series, Star Wars Rebels. And what you're also going to get is our Star Wars attraction is going to get a new scene inspired by the upcoming film Star Wars The Force Awakens. And we're also going to, in the gallery, there's going to be authentic pieces of Stormtrooper armor and Sith lightsabers and Rebel flight helmets and lightsabers once wielded by Jedi Knights. And what's interesting is that what got lost in all of this was that Innoventions is now going to be renamed the Tomorrowland Expo. And, of course, some of us still call it the Carousel of Progress building. And so the Starship and the preview galleries will have props from the upcoming film and other movies in the Star Wars saga. They're also going to have a Disney Infinity 3.0 game that is going to have park-exclusive toy box levels. And anyway, so along with that, so anyway, they've not announced an official opening date yet for Season of the Force at your soon-to-be formally named Disney Hollywood Studios in Florida. But along with that announcement is at Disneyland, they also announced starting in January that major sections of Disneyland are going to be closed for over a year. So the Disneyland Railroad and all 4 stations are going to be closed down. Fantasmic will be closed. Rivers of America will be closed, which includes Mark Twain, Riverboat, the sailing ship Columbia, and the Davy Crockett Explorer canoes are all going to be born, and Pirate's Lair on Tom Sawyer Island. So they said all of these attractions will reopen in the future, but they are not giving a date at all. There's 300 cast members affected by this, but they're all going to be found positions within the park. And they did confirm our whole Big Thunder Ranch area
It's going away.
is going to be closed down permanently for the Star Wars expansion.
All right.
So, but not Big Thunder Mountain Railway.
Okay.
So that's it.
Thank you, Michael. Jenny Lynn.
My news is that Pirates of the Caribbean has reopened after it's been down for a while for rehab. It now has new paint and some restoration work and a few enhanced special effects, including water-based smoke and strobes for weather effects. In addition to that, some new scents have been added to Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm not sure what those scents are, though.
Beer.
Is it? Alcohol. That the audio animatronic figures have been rebuilt and given new costumes in order to make them look more lifelike.
Oh. I can't wait to see it.
I know.
When did
I'm
it
kinda
reopen?
excited. It's already reopened.
When did it reopen?
Oh,
Saturday.
yeah, it was really
Was it?
just a couple days ago.
You have to try and get down there and see it. It's one of my favorite attractions. So.
Yeah, we'll get a ride through up as soon as possible.
Okay. Tonight?
Probably not tonight because we'll get to that on Rhino's Rapid Fire, but probably tomorrow since the trip's pre-recorded.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Jenny Lynn. Corey.
All right, Night of Joy is expanding in 2016. If you don't know what it is, they feature contemporary Christian performers. They'll be expanding to ESPN Wild World of Sports instead of the Magic Kingdom. Concerts will be held both indoor and outdoor venues, allowing more guests to attend and weather to not affect the event. The guests will still receive admission to the Magic Kingdom, and dedicated transportation will still be provided. Between the two locations, the pricing will be comparable to previous years.
Okay, so you're paying the same amount of money, but you're not. It's a hard ticket event. So you're paying the same amount of money for the hard ticket, but you're not getting any of the attractions in the Magic Kingdom for it?
Well, they're still going to allow you they're going to give you a ticket to the Magic Kingdom, and they'll provide transportation back and forth. I think because this is such a popular event, this usually happens around the second week of September, that it always sells out. And this is going to allow more people to attend. And
Okay.
Well, this will also show how popular the event actually is in terms of the concerts themselves. Like, are all these youth groups coming down to go and watch the concerts, or are they just going to go to the parks? Because if they have this huge expansion over at Wide World of Sports, and then there's 13 people standing outside watching
With their lighters.
then they're going to have to really restart thinking like the whole entire process on it. But
yeah,
I'm interested.
I think they saw a need and they're expanding.
Awesome. Thank you, Corey. Rhino.
So mine is that the Morimoto Asia is opening on September 30th, which is tomorrow. That's the Iron Chef restaurant they've put into Disney Springs. Disney Springs, that's what is that somebody else's? That's what we're officially calling
I'm
that?
just going
You
to
can
jump
go
on
there.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was going to say, and that's the same day that officially becomes Disney Springs
Today.
as well. Oh, is it
Today.
today? I had originally
As of
read
today,
Tuesday.
they want you calling
oh,
it
it is
Disney
Tuesday. I'm
Springs.
sorry.
We'll
I
be
thought
there.
today was Monday. Yeah, so that's cool. I saw all the signs were up for it, and it's actually been functioning because they've been doing cast member previews for the last week, and I've heard some good things. So I look forward to checking that one out.
I had sushi there in New York because I wanted to try it out, and you would not believe what my bill was. It was just me eating sushi. It was $400.
Oh,
What?
How much did you eat?
My weight.
I was just going to say, but,
I
but
wanted
what's
to
a
try
normal
everything.
bill? Normal bill for you though.
What's that?
What's an average bill for you at a regular sushi?
It's like about 150.
Okay, all right. Let's do some math on that one.
No, the man can eat. You want to see just breathtaking gluttony. Go with him to Shula's when he orders the prime rib, and it ends up looking like a bone dipped in acid. It's like this 26-ounce prime rib, and it's gone. And it's breathtaking gluttony. That will be the title of your
Okay, that's good.
autobiography.
Or on my headstone.
Mine is going to be genuflecting at the altar of crazy. So, all right. Well, thank you, Corey.
What do you mean? Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Rhino.
Oh, Rhino. Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot this one. Just was all about Corey. He's much more important to me. Craig.
Burned.
Yeah, before we get into mine, just to follow up on Rhino's, Corey and I will be trying out Morimoto's tonight, Morimoto Asia. The grand reveal of the new Disney Springs name like it's a joke. So watch our social media for all that coverage, of course. Mine is to go along with more Star Wars news. Jedi Training Academy finally got its closing date, and it will be set to close on October 4th. It will be back, of course, but it'll be the new revamped show as part of all the changes that they're making, and it will be coming back as Jedi Training Trials of the Temple, but no date yet set for that grand opening on that one.
Isn't that going to have more of a Star Wars Rebel focus?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's gonna have the. I think it's gonna have the. I think the villain might end up being that guy from the cartoon show, that Inquisitor character is what I believe.
Yeah, regardless of what the story is, I mean, kids always love it, and it always fills up to actually get in to be a part of the show early on in the day. But to see a fresh show every now and then, that would be nice, and I hope they can revisit the old one too every time to time.
I do too. It's such a great experience. My kids got to do it once when they were a little bit younger, and it was a fantastic thing from a parent's perspective to be able to watch your kids do that. It was so cute.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Craig.
You're welcome.
All right. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this is the Friday. Last Friday was the beginning of the 20th annual Epcot Food and Wine Festival, which everyone looks forward to. I did not go with the team on Friday, but they did. And we got an email recently from someone who pointed out something that we need to be better at remembering, which is that not everybody knows all the details about this stuff, and we tend to go into it like you do. And so just to give everybody who may not be familiar a little bit of an overview about the Epcot Food and Wine Festival. This is an annual event. The 20th year is this year. And what happens is all around World Showcase, kiosks are set up representing different countries. And each of these kiosks will have 2 or 3 different dishes native to that country, along with selection of wines that you can pair with it. Again, native to that region or that country. And you can use your Disney Dining Plan snack credits for most of the food items. And prices range anywhere from, let's say, between
$4 and $6.
Like between $4 and $6. Some are more expensive depending on where you are, what you're getting. But it's an incredible experience, and it's a very, very popular. We were there Friday, or you guys were there Friday, and from what I understand, the crowds were
Insane.
extraordinary.
Intense, yeah.
And so we have a little bit of an overview that has been put together by these guys. And I hope I get back from the bathroom before it finishes, because I can't wait. So here is a look at this year's Food and Wine Festival. All right. Well, thank you for that overview, Craig. So let's talk about what has changed this year. Those who have been before, what's new this year, and what can they expect?
They have a couple new booths. They have the wine. They have the wine studio and the cheese studio there, which are kind of self-explanatory. And then they have 2 new booths centered on the show The Chew. So there's the Sustainable Chew, which features sustainable agriculture as the ingredients of their meals, and then there's just the Chew Lab, which is supposed to feature futuristic type foods.
And another point about these is that this is the first time they've expanded into Future World. And I think this isn't going to be the end of that. I think years from now, we're going to see it be a full park full of booths, which I don't mind it.
I agree. I actually think that's a good idea because it helps disperse the crowds.
I was just going to say that if opening day was that crowded, and just seeing some of the pictures I've seen in that video, they're going to have to start expanding. It's so incredibly popular.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I was a little bit harsh whenever we first announced that it was going to be expanding into Future World, but I thought it was tastefully done too. They were very smart about how they planned and put everything. Like, I figured something was going to go right in that section where they always put up like the jungle gym playground for flower and garden, but then where they actually did put the Chew booths, it was. I mean, it fit into that area and it looked nice.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't put it like next to the bog,
Yeah.
or right near the fountains. It was kind of off to the side.
And
Yeah,
it
that
seemed
would've
to
just-
also fit very seamlessly into the theme of Future World as well. The Chew Lab and the Sustainable Chew, that kind of all goes sort of along the lines of, the land pavilion
Right.
and so on and so forth.
Well, and actually, these were 2 of the best booths overall. I know Corey was in love with the one thing he got at the Chew Lab, despite the portion size.
Right. That was my vote for the best presentation. When you go to these, the presentation is so much
Well,
better.
what was the item?
It was the New York strip, parsnip silk, balsamic glaze, and arugula foam. Out of all the the samples I had, this had the variety of flavors just in this one dish. It wasn't very big. It was the first item I ordered for my entire day there. I was like, oh no, hope the whole day's not going to be like this.
How much was it?
It was
$6.25.
$6.
Wow. Junior's on it.
Well, I had the salmon here too, and same thing. It was just bursting with flavor. First thing we had during the day, and it set a decent bar, especially because of the fact that it's a brand new booth, and the items were really well thought out there. And we had in the video, not photos of it here, but the next day then I got to try like the ice cream that they were serving there, which was like flash fry,
With
not
nitrogen?
fried, but flash dropped into nitrogen. So it was hard on the outside and pretty much hard on the inside too, and then drizzled with a bourbon caramel and almonds, and I had seconds of it. It's so much. And they also, at the Chew Lab, that's where they have one of their most creative drinks that they had there, the smoking hibiscus, which they also put a hibiscus flower, drop it in the nitrogen, and then pull it back up, and it's frozen and creates a smoky effect. Really, really good booth that you need to check out if you're going.
Okay. What else in terms of favorites?
My
Or-
favorite.
Yeah.
My favorite was the pork belly in Brazil. I think that was a lot of people's favorites.
It was
But-
pretty good.
Yeah, it was actually the first time I've ever had pork belly, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, last year the pork belly was I think it was one of our highlights in terms of pretty much everyone that went. I think we got at least like 4 or 5 different orders from our group
Yeah,
that
that's
went there.
$5.50 for that. That's one of my go-to ones. I go to pork belly, and I also go to the grilled lamb in Australia. I always have my go-tos. They're not necessarily the ones that are going to fill you up, but
Well, I think that's true for a lot of people. They have the dishes that are always there every year that they like and that they look forward to. And I think Disney kind of knows which ones are popular, and they make sure those stay. Because I think you'd be upset if you lost your pork belly or
Yeah, I would.
your lamb.
I like how like a lot of the favorites. Like I feel like escargot is a pretty like staple for the
Oh, for
the
France. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
And I like that it's like reinvented every year, with some mistakes. But like this year, it was in a croissant with like this sauce drizzled on top of it, and I liked it a lot because before it used to being like these little individual bread bowls, and I didn't care for it.
It's changed
like
3 years. This is my vote for the most improved item for Food and Wine. Last year it was on a little tart, which everybody I mean, the majority of the people I heard from hated it. And the year before it was in like these little bread bowls.
Yeah, I remember the
with
bread
little
bowls.
Butter inside and a little cap on top. But
Yeah.
I think this is the most improved over last year.
I like how Corey has little awards designated
do.
for
It's
each
food.
entree. It's
It's
like
food.
it's like the Oscars of the Food and Wine Festival.
What was your favorite?
I'll be very honest. I didn't have anything that really stood out to me. Last year, I did all of the vegan stuff, and I only ate, the special dietary items. This year, I didn't. I ate other things, and even with that, there wasn't anything that really grabbed me. I was going to try to do more of the special dietary items, but they didn't have the vegan booth, first of all. So the only vegan item that I really saw that was available was the vegan moussaka, which you can see right there, and as appetizing as it appears
I
to
hated
be.
taking that photo.
Terrible presentation.
It was the worst thing I've ever seen. It looked like dried old cat food.
Yeah, it does. It's terrible.
The comments on the video, because I forgot about them when we were there in person, but listening back to it, I think Rhino said it looked like the alien face sucker.
Yeah.
Like
that
Corey
was
said
the
an
main
expletive.
So I did actually ingest this.
Did
and
it taste better than it looked?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't taste bad, but it wasn't something where I was like,
I had
oh
a
my
bite.
God. It was nothing like that. Whereas last year, I really enjoyed the vegan booth. They did have vegetarian items. They had quite a few of them. And I think that they had, kind of made a thing of we've expanded and have even more this year. But in truth, if you look at the items that are available, I think the majority of those items are desserts. They're not actually like entree type items. The vegetarian items are often, it's the coconut candy in Brazil or whatever it is. It's sugar, 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 and more sugar. And, that's, of course, very few desserts. I can't think of a single one that has meat in it. You don't eat meat for dessert, basically. So,
You can.
Well, unless you're Corey. Yeah.
So, but there was, let's see, I did eat the vegetarian ravioli in Italy. I think that one's kind of hit or miss because I had it twice. I had it the day that we were all there together, and it wasn't really that great. It might have been the weather. The
It
weather
depends
was
on how
really,
the microwave's working. I really think
guess
that's
so.
it.
It was. I mean, it looked like it looked like a TV dinner when it came out. It tasted not much better than that the first time I had it, but then I did have it again yesterday because I went back again yesterday, and yesterday it was actually pretty decent. It was pretty good. So, but I didn't have anything that really.
Nothing really stuck.
No,
stood
I mean
out.
I had the pork belly in Brazil. That was good. I enjoyed it. I really liked the bean part of it though. And then I also had the duck in China, which was really good as well. But again, not anything. It was on this like interesting bread, and I couldn't quite figure out if I liked it or didn't like it. It was very doughy. Do we have a picture of that, right?
No.
Yes, it was in the video.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
we have
the
video of it.
Included the
Okay.
picture.
Hello, JL.
I didn't realize you did the slideshow.
I am present here today. Okay. It was this very doughy bread and hard to explain and fluffy and
It was
I
similar
I
to
couldn't
like
make my
the
mind up about it.
steamed dough from a pork bun.
Let's get the
It
real
was similar to
description here.
that.
that's a very exciting description. It was good. It wasn't anything that I was just gonna, roll over and die for though.
China booth in general, I know it's always a really, really popular place to stop at, but just China in general at Epcot, whether you're talking Nine Dragons restaurant or the food and wine booth, it's nice to get that little sample, but you can find a million good Chinese restaurants anywhere.
True.
It's something, I mean, it's pretty delicious, but at the same time, skip it if you really want to get something else a little more unique. This year, my absolute favorite right after the Chew Lab is the returning booth, Dominican Republic. This is where Puerto Rico was last year, but They
upset
had
they
it.
didn't have that this year.
I can't remember what year they said Dominican Republic first made its appearance, but this is its second year back, and it's got a beautiful little sitting area. It's all nice and shady. It's one of my favorite spots, and it had my absolute favorite dish that I had there, and that was it's like a pulled pork, very roasted with pickled onions and fresh avocado right on top, on almost something that was very reminiscent of like a cornbread, and this thing was just packed with flavor.
It looks so refreshing.
Yeah.
It's so colorful.
It's very bright, yeah.
It was one of those ones that you felt good about eating it outside, even though it was 90 degrees. It wasn't sitting really too hard. And then I also got to try the weird yuca thing that they had there as well, too, which was just phenomenal. Griddled cheese, you can't go wrong with that ever.
Okay, I do have something to say about this though, because you didn't have this when we were all there together. You had this when you went back the next day, and he texted me and said that this was amazing because this was something I almost got the first day. My complaint in general about Food and Wine this year is it's been very inconsistent so far over the first day, and that might just be because of the crowds or something, but when I went back Saturday night, they had the cast members who were just wearing those multicolored like flag shirts were the ones plating the food in the kitchen this time, whereas when we were there Friday morning, it was only the chefs. So the thing I got, the cheese griddle, none of this brown was on top. It looked like everybody was like, "Oh, did you get an egg?" And I was
how
like,
it looks like foie gras.
If I'm not wrong, that's one of the vegetarian items too, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this
yeah.
is a vegetarian item that's available that gets approval.
And if you're gonna, so I hope you get it that it is actually griddled cheese. For me, it was just plop down cheese on yuca. I mean, yuca's great. I love yuca. But.
Well, you brought up a good point there that inconsistent is a perfect word to describe Food and Wine this year. Not necessarily with the food, but with how a lot of it's being handled. At one point in time at the Dominican Republic, we went up to get food. There was like no line there, so we thought score. Well, there was no line because they completely ran out of food.
It was
and they
first
couldn't
day.
say when they would have
you
more.
kidding?
This is about
No,
1:30.
Middle of the day, they ran out of food.
And
That's
yeah.
bizarre.
I know.
Yeah, it was, day one.
I don't think
they're
I've
already
ever heard
out,
that.
But, well, I mean, in fairness, the two items, I did have some of Craig's, the first one when he got it that first day. Again, I went back I was like, this is amazing. We have to get this again. And it didn't deliver the second time because it didn't really have the pickled onions in it stuff. But this booth had some of the most standout food individually there. For me, I think, like, my favorites were, I agree, the pork belly in Brazil was awesome. The duck I really liked in China because I like that bun and thing. And then when I went back the second night, I actually tried Scotland, and I was not interested in trying the haggis, but Eli wanted it. And so I had that in that seafood pancake. I can't remember what it's called because I don't have my book in front of me. But both of those were actually really, really good and were plated really well, looked really great, tasted awesome. So I definitely recommend that because that's one of the first booths when you go in, and sometimes people, I think, skip by it because it had a long line, but it was good.
There was a cheese bread in Brazil that could have been addicting.
All right, Michael and Stephen, this was both of your first times at Food and Wine Festival. So I'd like to hear from the both of you as a first timer. What was your perspective? Did it live up to your expectations? Were you disappointed? What did you like about it? What was your favorite thing? What was your least favorite thing?
For me, I went in with only thing I knew about it was what you had talked about on the Diz all these years. So I went in I was really excited to try everything. And I have to admit, I went in late Saturday because my flight had just gotten in, and I was a little taken aback by the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hot, and it was
Been very hot
crowded.
this week, yeah.
A lot of people had clearly been drinking. And so it showed in their personalities and behavior and all that. But I enjoyed it. It was just so much fun to walk around. And, I thought some of the portions were a little expensive for what you got. But I was telling Carol that the nice thing is that even if you don't like something, at least you're not getting this full portion and you feel bad about it. And it didn't fill you up a lot so that you could go to a lot of different places and that was my breakfast, lunch, and dinner on Saturday, was just eating at all the different booths. One of my favorites, it was everything you've all mentioned were amongst my favorites, but in Ireland, I really enjoyed the lobster and seafood fisherman's pie, which it was very tasty, and they had a warm chocolate pudding with a Kerrygold Irish cream sort of liqueur on it, and that was excellent.
The lobster pie, I would definitely say there's a warning with that because it is so hot. Like
Yes.
once you break that cheese or that's whatever the topping is, it is extremely hot.
Yeah, I had to let it cool down
Yeah.
a bit. There were a couple of things I thought were overrated. I've listened to Kathy Whirling every year talk about that lobster roll, and that was one of the first places I made a beeline for, and that's something I'd recommend people in the morning. Go to the back of World Showcase because everybody's stopping at the first booth they see, and in the back nobody had arrived there yet, and I thought maybe it's because I'm from California, so I'm used to fresh seafood. I just felt the lobster roll was nothing special.
But you know what?
I agree.
When I saw that lobster roll this year, I'm like, what is that? It looked like a lobster salad,
Yeah.
like in a bun. It's not what it looked like last year.
And it tasted like that too.
It tasted like it just a
It tasted
mesh
like
of-
celery, and yeah. I grew up going to Cape Cod as a kid every summer, and so we'd get like real lobster rolls. And this was no real lobster roll. It was, and it was it was tied for the most expensive item. So I would say it's definitely not worth the money.
Disneyland sells a lobster roll that's excellent, and I thought, I don't know what happened here. Another one I thought was overrated was something I was surprised about in Canada, and that was the filet mignon. And it might
Really?
be because I like my meat rare, medium rare at most. This was well done. I mean, they really made sure this meat was cooked, so I didn't enjoy it very much.
Well, on that note, again, there was another booth that even had a warning sign up. I can't remember which one it was, but it said because they were supposed to be cooking the meat really rare. I think Corey
Was
you
it
had-
the venison?
It was my venison
Yeah.
that I had at New Zealand, which, I mean, bursting with flavor, especially from the sauce. It was excellent, but whenever I started to take a bite out of it, I was like, okay, if this is medium or less, I'll be able to just do it in one piece. But I could tell right as soon as I bit into it, it's well done because I couldn't even pull
Really?
it apart.
I think they've
Don't
just
play
been
with my emotions.
leaving. They've just been leaving the stuff like under the lights, or again, it's the people that are maybe plating. They don't know. So it would seem a little panicked. That's all.
Well, it's just not cooked properly, and that's a scary thing in terms of the chefs. I mean, they're supposed to be experts,
Right.
and it's not being cooked right.
Stephen, what was your impression first time?
I really thought, there was a lot of people, and that was kind of a bummer, but there was a cool buzz, kind of like Mickey's Not So Scary has a cool buzz to it, and having all those, the global marketplaces made it seem like how you're like, wow, this is how Epcot should feel all the time. Like, I don't know, I just felt like it kind of makes you think, like, when this is gone, I'm going to be like, oh no, like, what happened? Like,
Yeah.
can we get that back?
Well, a lot of people feel that way, I
Yeah.
think.
And so, I think overall, I liked almost everything I had, except for the lobster roll. I had a great time. And again, I just really liked the buzz.
Something important to mention as well, this year, there's a lot of annual pass holder exclusives, including if you're an annual pass holder and you go, I believe, 3 times, Michael?
The third time you get it.
Yeah.
Day, I'll get.
Yeah, you get a free port glass that's really beautiful, has the logo on it. But then, of course, back in Wonders of Life, where they have the merchandise, the big merchandise center, there's a lot of exclusive items. But I wanted to wait in line to get an exclusive Vinylmation that they had, their Swedish Chef one, that there was only 2,500. I kid you not, because of the annual pass holder exclusives, I waited in line for almost an hour just to get this one
Wow.
item. And there was people waiting there even longer, getting up to the register and being told that their items were no longer available. So
There were 2 people working the register
Yeah.
with a line
Yeah.
like that.
I commented on that to them,
Well,
and
just
they
for the-
said that that's normal.
Just for the point of explanation, the Festival Center is pretty much like the merchandise hub every year for Food and Wine Festivals. Also, same thing for Flower and Garden Festival. And this is located in the Wonders of Life Pavilion next to Mission Space in Epcot, and this is what it's used for now, these special events. It's kind of sad, actually.
Yeah.
But how was the merchandise in general, though, in the Festival Center?
I thought that they had some really interesting things this year. Now, I'm not sure if this is the first year that they've had it, but it's the first year that I've noticed it. You can purchase these trays that make it
No,
much...
they had them last
they
year.
had
Okay, I mean...
You can purchase trays that will hold a
that will
wine
hold
glass and your food.
Yeah, hold your glass and the food, which is, I think, very smart because, as we all know, table space is at a premium at this event. Trying to get somewhere to stand and eat your food, often you have to head over to the top of a trash can or some kind of wall, or because there's just simply nowhere to go to set your food.
Was seating any better this year?
Absolutely.
Yes.
It
Yes,
was
it was.
phenomenally better. We never noticed any of those special reserved sections that we heard
I'm
about
not sure
before.
where the VIP
but-
sections were that you're supposed to be purchasing, but there definitely was more seating, but we know how the crowds can get. So I thought that, this idea of the trays where you can walk and be able to manage everything efficiently and not be juggling so much is really smart.
Well, talk about the VIP packages for a second. Does anyone remember what they're going for?
I bet Craig could find that information out
Yeah, I
for
don't
us
have it in-
because he's pretty handy like that.
While he's doing that, I did notice that they were also selling this. And again, I'm not sure if this has been there in previous years, but they had a whole line of body care products and
Yeah, that's
some
been
of
there.
Oh, really?
made of entirely
yeah, that's
all
some.
edible ingredients.
Okay, sorry about that. The VIP premium package, that the reason why we didn't see it and it didn't affect us is because it's only available from noon to 8 on Monday through Thursday. So on weekends, they're opening up all that seating
That's smart.
for everyone there. And that event did cost $199. And you also get the dessert party for Illuminations and seating for whoever's the performer for that night at the Eat to the Beat series. And we also did notice another thing that was new this year was the tasting sampler credentials that cost $59. You get the credential, and it was like the old Dream fast passes that you used to get where they'd have like the lanyard and you just snap it off and give it to them. It had different food items all around the place that you just snap it off and give it to them, and that's how you paid your food. So you didn't get that you didn't get to get whatever you want. You had to eat what they suggest, but it also is an option if you want to get a general mix of everything they have available.
Okay. Now, I assigned each of you $50 to do this because I wanted to see how. Well, not you, Michael, because you didn't go with us, but the rest of you, I gave you $50 each because I wanted to see how you did on $50. So tell me what that was like.
I'm cheap, so I'll go first. I actually think it worked out perfectly. I honestly got to the last booth, and I think I had I spent it perfectly. Like it ended. I think I had to end up paying like 75 cents for the last thing I got. But and I don't feel like I was really being too reserved with it, to be honest. Like Craig and I did have a little okay, I'm gonna get this. You'll try a bite, and then he got this, and I'll try a bite. But we only did that like 2 or 3 times, and so I feel like it did pretty well.
I kept all my receipts, with the exception of you had to loan me $1 off of your card at the end for my final beer. I was able to get 2 beers and 9 food items going around
On $50.
Yeah, I try not to go over the $5 mark though. I look anywhere between the $3.50 and $5.50 if I'm going to splurge, but I didn't choose anything that was typically over $5. And I mean, you can really maximize it in watching what other people get, knowing like, okay, that dish looks hearty, I'm going to go with that one, and you can be full.
Do you feel you got enough food
Yeah.
on $50?
I do. Yeah. I didn't eat dinner.
Jenny Lynn, how about you? How'd you do?
I came in under, but I didn't get as much to eat as everyone else did. So, I mean, I guess I did great. But on the other hand, I do wish that I had maybe gone around and sampled a bit more than we did. That just the weather that day was so hot and miserable, and it was one of those things that I just didn't feel like eating as much as maybe I normally
Right.
would have if I had gone on a cooler evening.
I think what helped us a lot too, I should say this, is that we did a lap. We did a lap first for like photos and video, but we were also kind of checking out the menus as we went. And I would recommend this to somebody, like maybe get yourself a drink or a margarita or something like in Mexico, that outdoor thing, and then do the lap. and just kind of check it out and then go back or get like Corey, you're holding it right now. That
Well, I'm gonna give a
gonna
suggestion
talk about it?
before I
Okay,
go
cool.
into what I ate. I think before you even go into to start this festival, grab one of these books. It has every location with a spot where I'm holding it upside down, where you can get stamps on each of your locations that you go to, and it gives you the items that you can check off as you go. It's a cool little book. Helps you keep track. And grab one of these gift cards. We say it every year. You can preload it with $50 or $100 or whatever.
And they actually have an elastic band that will
Right.
go around your wrist, so you have it always with you.
And so as you go around, so Pete gave us all one with $50 on it, and as you spend, it'll show you your remaining amount. So you kind of know, okay, I have 3 more booths to go to. I have $10. How am I going to spend that $10? I thought it worked out great. I got an entree in Africa. I got the lamb in Australia, the pork belly in Brazil. I got a beer at the Brewers Collection, the Chew Labs. I got the New York Strip, Hawaii, the tuna poke, and also a beer, and the hops and barley, New England. I got the grass-fed beef slider and a beer, and then Ireland I got the lobster and seafood pie. So that was it. I think I had 75 cents left.
And what I like about this book is it tells you the location of each of the booths. Because I don't know where some of these places are because I don't come here all the time. But it'll tell you what pavilion it's near, or if it's in between 2 pavilions. So it made it a lot easier for me to figure out
So as a
where
first
they were.
timer, you would absolutely recommend making sure you have, and they hand them out
absolutely.
free,
They're
right?
free.
They're-
Yeah,
they're
Oh, yeah.
free.
at the any of the merchandise locations that are the food and wine ones, like you can get them as you're going into World Showcase, and then at those merchandises around it too.
And for those listening, not watching, this basically looks like a passport that just says food and wine on it, and then has all this information.
And
so-
if you're an annual pass holder, like we were saying in the back, is where they stamp it, and on your 3rd day, you get the free wine glass.
I think it's also worth mentioning for those that have never done the event before, if you're a Chase credit card holder or you have a Chase account, they have the Chase Lounge in the American Pavilion, which on especially hot days, you're going to want to have access to it if you're allowed in there, and you go up a couple
Were you
floors.
able to get in?
Oh, yeah, I
There
went
was
in
a wait
too.
for it, which is the first year that I've ever had to wait to get into the Chase Lounge, but it wasn't too bad. And they've expanded it a little bit. So there's the room where they normally have the freestyle Coke machines, and those are still there. And there was a line for that. People wanted their free soda. And then there was the area that looks out with the windows and all the cushy seats and the couches. And then they have a whole new room that's available where they've put Disney Infinity. And that tended to be where the kids were and the families with the kids. They were in there playing the games, and they had a few tables and chairs set up in there. But I thought that was good. Last year they had Disney Infinity in the same room as the room where everyone just kind of wanted to sit and chill out, but you could hear this noises
Yeah.
from the game the whole time. This year they've separated. It's an entirely separate room. And then they have a table there as well where there's a girl waiting, or a guy cast member waiting on hand. It's kind of serving as a guest services to the people that go up to the lounge. You can make dining reservations and such from
Oh,
up
wow.
there. They'll make those dining reservations for you.
Cool.
And they had a charging station for your cell phone. So while you're relaxing with your freestyle Coke, you can charge your phone.
And this year they also had a feature. This is not that big of a deal, but they would take your picture with some kind of special machine that they had, and put your picture up on what they were calling and I'm putting in this in quotes, poster that you could use and send out in your social media, post up on Facebook, or tweet out this picture of you with this border that says Food and Wine Festival.
They couldn't figure out how to turn it on when I was there.
Oh, really?
They were calling IT help for it.
So, what items were failures? What items did you try that you did not like?
I didn't. So I loved the duck in China, and I was really excited because this picture looked really good of a slider they had there, like a beef slider. I'm not a big red meat person, but and I really didn't like. I didn't like the combination of the flavors. I think that was the one that stood out the most for me.
Craig?
For me, there's never anything that I think is just like downright disgusting. However, it more or less gets into is this really worth the price that it actually costs? And I do think there's quite a bit, if not the entire festival, is starting to get more on the edge of let's raise the prices up a little bit each year by a quarter. because they'll never notice. And so you get to the point where you get like the lobster roll for $7.50, and it's just not worth that ever.
Yeah.
I do have a winner for value for price, and Craig, you had it, but disagree with me if you think. But New Zealand, there's a lamb meatball with a spicy tomato chutney. That's for $5.25.
It was really
that
good.
was
I think
It's
for the
huge.
value, the portion you get for that price, that's my winner for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that. It tasted really good too.
Right. And I want to stick to what you didn't like.
I didn't like it, or I liked everything I had.
Okay.
Yep.
Was there anybody? Did you
I can say
experience
again,
anything?
the lobster roll was definitely
Yeah.
my biggest loser. It just wasn't a lobster roll. It was like a lobster salad roll, like Corey said. It was. I mean, if that's what you're looking for and that you're willing to pay $7.50 for that, then go for it. But it just wasn't a lobster roll.
Now, Corey, given the way you eat, $50.
It was decent. We kind of ran through pretty quick. I think it was a decent amount. I wasn't really going in to get full. I don't think you can go into this as getting full. It's more of an experience. Like I would have to eat probably 10 of those lamb meatballs just to get started. But I kind of go in as a sample. But for $50, I think I was able to order a lot of stuff. And I didn't do a lot of drinking that day, 3 beers, and these are tiny beers. But it was more about the food. But, there wasn't really an entree I didn't like. I didn't like the way Jenny Lynn's looked. That's about it.
I didn't jump in there with that yet. When we're talking about the failures, I'm just really disappointed by how they handled the special dietary items this year. If all that you have to offer vegans is that vegan moussaka, whereas you're coming from having a whole booth from last year to only having that one item for vegans, that was a disappointment. And again, I ate it; it was fine. But if that's it, that's a failure in my mind. They certainly had quite a few items that were great as far as gluten-free things go. You were eating tons of gluten-free things,
I didn't
Corey,
even
and
know it,
he
yeah.
didn't know. He couldn't tell the difference. He loved everything, and the vegetarian stuff. Some of it was good, but really, for me, like the failure, it wasn't necessarily the specific item, but in terms of vegans, it just the lack of offerings. Compared to last year, anyway.
I want to say too, really quick, since this, if this is where we're ending on the failure note, but with that said, this food and wine is one of my favorite things at Disney, all of Disney World, all year to look forward to. Yeah, so I don't want what I said to sound like I had a negative experience at all. I mean, it was hot, but this thing goes to the middle of November,
Right.
So I always tell people Halloween season, that October is the sweet spot, and the only reason we're even talking about it the way we are is just because we're so experienced with it. So we can nitpick like that.
All right,
that's
so
That's a good
let's, before I get your ratings, I just want to mention the Eat to the Beat concert series during, like they do during Flower and Garden, during Food and Wine Festival, a series of different acts, a lot of them from the 80s, come to perform for a couple of days. And I think, honestly, this is the best lineup they've ever had. David Cook was just there, Wilson Phillips, Christopher Cross. If you're my age, you're like, okay, that's really good. Starship, starring Mickey Thomas, Smash Mouth, The Pointer Sisters, 38 Special, Rick Springfield, Sugar Ray, SOS Band, Air Supply, oh my God, Fuel, who I've never heard of.
Come on.
Tiffany, bless her heart. She's gone from performing in malls to
Performing
American
at-
Gardens Theater. Dennis DeYoung. I'm going to tell you something. That's 10:26 to 10:28. I'm going to be there for that. I'm going to be there for that. He was the lead singer of Styx, and the man has a virtuoso voice. And if you're so inclined, there was an album he put out. If you're a big fan of like Broadway, called 10 on Broadway. It was just spectacular. It's a great album. He does an a cappella version of On the Street Where You Live from My Fair Lady, which was just incredible. So love Dennis DeYoung. This man has an amazing, amazing voice. Jody Messina, Everclear, Boys to Men, Sister Hazel, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, Hanson, Maxi Priest, and Chaka Khan round out the offerings.
I was there for Wilson Phillips last night, and they were fantastic.
Really?
They got rained out a little bit towards the end, but they
did you see
were
what I just
amazing.
did? Out of habit, you see what I went to go adjust my glasses, and they weren't
wondering
there.
what you were doing to your
I was
eyes.
like, So that's the E to the B concert series. All right, wrapping it up. I want everybody, scale of 1 to 10, this year's Food and Wine Festival. Craig.
7.
I'm going to say an 8.
Michael.
I'll say an 8.
Junior.
I'll also say an 8. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna do it 7.5, and it usually gets better as the event goes. So I may end this event with a pure 9.5.
Okay.
He took mine. I was going to say 7.5.
So we're hovering between 7 and 8, which is a strong mark, but absolutely not a rave. Sounds like there's some inconsistencies, some items that didn't work. I think the heat probably played a role in
I
this
think
for you
so.
guys.
I
Yeah.
think so.
So I wonder, going back when we're not in, and I got to tell you, this past week or so has been the worst of the summer, the worst humidity of the summer. We've not had this oppressive humidity for a while, and it's just been kind of nuts. So
My 7.5 is a mix between the heat and also we went on the first 2 days it was
Yeah.
open. So remember that these cast members are still getting their feet wet, and
Yeah.
they're dealing with the heat too.
Right.
So mine's a mix between that.
Yeah. And some of it for me, I mean, when you say, oh, there's the seating, table seating's better, I'm thinking, where were you people? Did you have to sit on the toilet and
we
eat?
didn't sit.
We-
Because,
You didn't sit. There
but-
was no place to sit.
Right. Well, there.
You
so
literally
there were,
leaned on garbage cans.
Well, I know, and I think that's why it's so funny you bring up merchandise. They have salt and pepper shaker trash cans
Love 'em.
for food and wine, and I thought this must be their sarcastic little nod. but
That's a good
it
point.
was just trying to. Sometimes there wasn't even a place to stand and put food on, and that's sort of why I'm giving it a lower rating. I mean, there's plenty of room to put out even those tall, lounge tables or whatever.
Preaching
they
to the
call
choir.
them.
We've been saying it for years. But at least they've gotten better apparently this year with more seating. So
Absolutely,
let's see. Or you could always pay the $200 a person and get a place to sit. All right, that is going to do it for this week's show. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back with you again next week with another edition of the Diz Unplugged. Thanks for being with us, everyone, and remember, stay out of the damn lakes. Have a good week.